Hello, friends. My name is Elle, and this is Linda Moon. And thank you for joining us for another deep dive. This one is for Kids Volume 5. We're going to be looking at a series called Page Turner. And if you have not watched one of these deep dives before, what we're going to do, we're going to give you like a big picture overview of what this teaching series is all about. And then we're going to get really specific on a few details that we really don't want you to miss. So that is the plan.
So, what we're going to do in this deep dive is we're going to start by giving you an overview of what Page Turner is all about. And then we'll go into and talk about the theme and fun ways you can decorate and just little things you can add to the series to make it so fun. And then we'll talk about the structure, which is how the teaching is structured. And we'll talk about a few of the teaching elements which we think you'll super enjoy. And then the last thing we'll look at is some fun tips to make Page Turner even more fun than it already is. And so, if you're a Grow user, you can take all of these things and just get a head start on planning for the next month. And even if you're not, there are lots of fun things in here that you can take back to your ministry and use it however you'd like.
So the series Page Turner is all about the ministry of Jesus. And so this month, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be reminded how epic each of these stories are in Jesus' life and ministry. There was a ton packed into kind of like this very short period of time that we had Jesus here on earth. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at some of these amazing stories and kind of use like this idea of like a really incredible like fantasy story or like everybody's favorite storybook to kind of bring all of this to life as if you're jumping into like a book, like a literal book that you love. So that's the idea.
Yeah, so we want kids to imagine being transported into these Bible stories, and we want them to also recognize themselves as heroes in their own epic stories and adventures in their life with Jesus. So I think this will be a really fun series for your kids to dive into, quite literally.
So in week one, we'll kind of walk you through week by week how this is going to work. In week one, we're going to be looking at Luke 4, which is the story where Jesus is tempted right before he began his ministry. So Jesus tempted in the wilderness. And so what we're going to do here in this week is use this story of Jesus's life to help kids understand the big idea for this week, which is God prepares us to fight temptation.
In week 2, we're looking at the story of Jesus chasing away an evil spirit. And this is a story that follows the transfiguration of Jesus. And this is a story that I think would be a very great reminder for kids to know that there are things happening that is not visible to the naked eye, and that there are forces that try to pull us down and pull us away from Jesus, but that God is stronger than all of them. So that's why this week's big idea is God is more powerful than evil.
Then in week 3, we're going to do a story that I feel like we don't often talk about with kids, but we're really excited to introduce this parable to kids. It is the story of the fig tree that didn't bear fruit. This is from Luke 13. And so what happens in this story, if you need a refresher, is that the vineyard owner wants to like cut this tree down because it's, not producing any fruit. But then there's a caretaker who tells the owner to just, no, give it another year, be patient, let this tree grow. And so, what we're going to do with this story is to kind of help kids understand, like, just how compassionate Jesus is toward us. And for them as little fig trees. And so, the big idea for this week is that God is patient while we grow.
I love that little fig trees. That's so cute. That needs to be somebody's ministry name, I'm just saying. And then we're going to go into week 4, where we talk about the parable of the lost son. Obviously, this is a very famous story with a ton of different takeaways. It can be its own page turning novel. But what we're focusing on is the fact that not just that the whole lost and found aspect, but the regardless of what a story arc is, whatever a hero's journey turns out to be, that God is always waiting for us and always just there with open arms. And so the big idea for this week is that God celebrates us.
I love that. And then the memory verse for the series kind of ties together a lot of these themes and big ideas and takeaways. So the memory verse for this month is Second Thessalonians 3:3, which says, "But the Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one." All right, so now that we've got kind of the big picture overview of the series, let's talk about the theme. This month's decorating theme is like fantastic stories. So, like Linda had mentioned, we want to give this impression of like a literal book being opened that you can kind of dive into, and kind of like kids are being absorbed into the pages of this book, these stories. So that's the idea. Kind of think about like Page Master or Inkheart or the show Once Upon a Time. All of those things are the vibe that we are going for the series. And you can also draw inspiration from stories like Narnia or Percy Jackson, where they're kind of like transported into new worlds, all that good stuff. Just lean hard onto all of your wonderful literature related metaphors and things.
So the best place to start with that would be to just put books everywhere. And the best place to do that would be to probably set up some bookshelves if you can and just fill it up with books. Maybe some really nice, like leather bound ones if you can,
Mm.
because that would just look really nice and epic. And you can have bookshelves filled with books decorated with ivy, with pages flying, books hanging, putting up twinkle lights. There are just so many ways you can go with this. You can turn your bookshelves into a little forest, however you'd like, or you can just purchase a backdrop that looks like bookshelves, which is also great. And also, what you can do is you can create these giant books. And this is actually really cool because I think you can make it as elaborate as you want. But just a little bit of an insider tip, hold on to the giant books you make because you could probably use it again for a related series that we have coming up in June called Ever After. So hang on to all of your cool book decorating ideas because you can use it again and give it a little bit of a spin. And we'll talk about how to do that later. What I also like are these book spine stairs. And this is really cool. I think you can do this with decals or you can just use paper. Just make sure you secure those really well so kids don't trip on the paper on the way up the stairs. And some fun giveaways would be some feather quill pens. You can purchase them wherever they're sold, like on Amazon, or you can make your own. Just get some feathers and attach it to some really pretty metallic pens, and that would work just as well. And also these mini Bible keychains because we are talking about page turner and the biggest and greatest page turner we want the kids to know about is the Bible. So this is a great reminder for them to carry with them wherever they go.
Okay, so next up, we want to give you a look at the structure of this series. If you are brand new to Grow, or you haven't used Grow yet, or you've been using it for a while, what you need to know is that every single week of our curriculum has a couple of things in common. For first of all, what we do is we always structure all of our lessons into three sections. So there is the what section, that is like what are we talking about, kind of the fun introduction to the topic. Then there is the so what section, which is where we actually open up the Bible, we do our Bible story, we do our teaching video, and begin to explain what that story is all about. And then the last one is now what, which is okay, now that we've heard the story from scripture, what do we do about it? And so that's kind of the application section. So that's always the same. Those three sections always happen in our curriculum. But within that, there's a ton of variety in the ways that our series are set up. So, Linda, why don't you tell us a couple of the things that are interesting and unique about Page Turner?
Page Turner is unique because it really leans into the theme really well. So each of the modules just have really creative storytelling happening. So I think you're going to really enjoy reading those and reading those aloud to the kids. But a couple of modules that I want to draw your attention to are the big idea reveals and the object lessons for this series.
Yeah, so every week of our curriculum, maybe you know this already, we have a big idea, which is like a simple sentence that just encapsulates like the biblical truth for that week. Obviously, in these stories that we read, there's typically going to be a ton of different takeaways and truths that we can draw out of there. But what we try to do is just choose one for the week that kids can remember and that's relevant and applicable to kids. And that becomes like our big idea. So those happen every week. There's a different one every week. But Linda, what is unique and special about the way we reveal these big ideas in this series?
So in Page Turner, you might have guessed already, we are going to be turning pages. So we're going to create a giant book, and each page is going to have the big idea for that week on it. So you want the open part of like the pages that are open to reveal a big idea. And then each week you can kind of turn the page to the big idea that's there. And the great thing about this is you can make it just as intricate as you want, make it out of cardboard and make it really fancy, or you can put poster board together and just with some big like easel paper and make it very simple. You can make it however you'd like. Either way, I think the point will come come across, and it will be a book of big ideas for the kids to unlock every week.
Love that. You also mentioned the object lessons. So we try to incorporate object lessons into most of our series. You'll see them pretty frequently. It's a really handy visual to help connect with kids. And it's one of the, I think we have a dozen different ways that we teach throughout like the course of a year. There's things like responses and times of reflection. There's music and videos and images and all that stuff. But we all love an object lesson, especially in kids ministry. So, Linda, tell us what these object lessons are in Page Turner.
Yeah, I wanted to draw your attention to these object lessons specifically because we do have them in every series. But what's special about the ones in Page Turner is that they are true to theme. So the object lessons are stories. And I think that's super cool because usually it is a literal object that you take to teach the lesson. But here, our author just went into some really fun ways of telling stories and then drawing parallels between that and the Bible story, the big idea. And it's pretty masterful. You should check it out. So, like for example, in week one, we're talking about it's called Bible Barricade. I think the object lesson is, and the teacher, the leader, is going to be using a stack of Bibles to be like, well, how did Jesus fend off temptation, like using the Bible, because we're saying that God prepares us. And so like you would like try to like wear the Bible or like hold it up like a shield or make forts out of Bibles. And then in the end, we find out no, it's not the Bible itself, it's what's in the Bible. So it's a really great object lesson for kids and super fun to watch, I think. For week two, we have one called Fish Out of Water because lots of adventure stories happen on the water. And so you're going to show a picture of a shark and ask the kids, like, what is the most powerful thing you see in this image? And, you know, most kids would probably say the shark. But the answer is actually the ocean. The ocean has much more control over the livelihood of the shark and everything in it. So it shows that no matter what tosses us around, God is more powerful than all of those things. So I thought that was really cute. In week three, we're doing how to hatch a dragon, and you can use a regular chicken egg, or you can use air dry clay to make your own and gemstones. You could even have kids make it along with you. That would be a fun additional craft to do. And the whole object lesson here is that, you know, eggs don't just hatch, right? You have to wait for it to hatch. And also you have to take really good care of it so they don't crack prematurely. And so we're drawing that to the idea of how God and how Jesus is so patient and just tends to us while we grow in our relationship with God. And the last one that I also really love is an object lesson called Lost and Found. And you use a key, any key, or you can make your own using cardboard if you want it to be comically large, and say, like, I lost my most prized possession. It's this key. It unlocks this beautiful room. I don't know what to do. And then someone finds it for you. And then you say, oh, thank you for returning my most prized possession. And then we tie it into how we are God's most prized possession. And sometimes we get lost along the way, and how God always celebrates us when we're found. So I think these object lessons are so cute and such a great way of telling stories to help kids remember this month's big ideas.
I love it. My heart is so warm and mushy. It's so cute. I love
Right?
it. And yes, I always vote for the comically large props. So
Mhm.
please do that. That sounds amazing. Okay, so now that we've covered the overview and the theme and the structure of the series, let's wrap it up by just giving you a few handy tips to help make this series extra awesome.
So, the first tip we have for you is to have a door decorating event. And I think this is a really great thing to do because I love activities that double as decorations for your space. It's a little sneaky, but you know, if you get kids to do it, it's so fun. So, you can have, if you have a campus with lots of doors for your ministry space, you can challenge each small group or class to decorate a book cover to go in with a theme. And there's some really fun examples online if you look, and they could even like create their own based on the Bible stories that they're going to learn that month. And if you're a smaller church, that's okay. You can have all the kids work together to decorate the door, the entryway to your main ministry space. And I think that will also be super fun for the kids to get involved in doing that. And you know, you can turn it into a contest and have fun prizes with that as well. And I think it'll just be a really great way to have kids literally open the door and enter into a book.
I love it. Tip number two, and by the way, this series is like very dear to my heart because books are like my first love. I just love books so much. Linda, I know you do too. So we're just in heaven with the series. It is the best. So okay, so tip number 2, create a reading nook. Guys, this is like I just wanted to like live in reading nooks when I was a child. Also today at this time, I still want to live in a reading nook. They're the best. So create a little reading nook in your space if you would like to. Just like a special space that where kids can kind of like curl up with a book, curl up with like a story Bible, whatever you've got over there. Just like a place for them to go and hang out, either like before the program starts or like when they're waiting to be picked up or whatever. So yes, create a reading nook and then also post your pictures and tag me so I can look at it and just be happy.
Yes, and I think if you do set up a reading nook, you can leave it up and
Yes.
just kind of give it a different makeover each month, and especially because you want it to last till June. Just trust me, you do.
Mhm. Mhm. Love it.
And the third tip for you is to check out the preschool track of Page Turner. Listen, guys, like we love all of your feedback. We love everything you've been saying about our curriculum and especially all the things that you've been giving us in terms of feedback for our preschool stuff. So we are making some very fun, exciting changes for volume 6. But in the meanwhile, I do want to implore you to check out the preschool track of Page Turner because it is so good. Our preschool author did a fantastic job of adapting the elementary series and making it more accessible for our littles. And so I think they would really enjoy all the activities there and just breaking down these really big concepts for preschoolers. I think it's really well done.
Amazing. Yeah, our preschool writing team is awesome and getting even more awesome because we're recruiting more people. It's just the best. We love it. Well, friends, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We do this every month, so we do this in advance so that we can help you get prepared for the series that is coming up. So join us next month for the next one, and also maybe you are thinking about VBS. Maybe you've already been thinking about VBS. If you don't know this already, we have a completely free VBS that you can just have. You can have that. You don't have to pay any money to anybody. You can just have it. And it's really wonderful. This year's theme is on the case, and it is like a really fun, like mystery kind of situation. So you're going to want to check that out. Go to growcurriculum.org and you will see our VBS stuff right there. And take it. It's our present to you because we like you and want you to have a wonderful VBS this summer. And friends, again, thank you so much. We are so excited to see what you do with this series, with VBS, with all of the awesome things that we know that you are working on in your ministry. So, as always, please share your pictures and videos and stories and amazing ideas as you prepare. It's so cool seeing all the things that you guys are setting up. So, you can do that in our Facebook group, which you can find by searching for Stuff You Can Use, a children's ministry community on Facebook. We are there and eagerly awaiting all of your pictures and things. Cool. All right. Thank you so much. We will see you next week, guys. Bye.